Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Houston, we actually may have a problem. Remember this.
More than 39 inches of rain already in spots, and more on the way. Officials releasing millions of gallons from the Addicks and Barker reservoirs, hoping to prevent a catastrophic dam failure. But the water inundating neighborhoods, forcing thousands of residents from their homes.
We had to leave some people behind, which is really, really tough in these situations. They can't sit in these homes anymore with this water rising.
We're about to start like the third aspect of our whole course, and we're going to now start talking about meteorology. Basically, the study of the Earth's atmosphere, the stuff up on the outside, and it creates weather and climate. So in this video, we want to talk about sort of just a big sort of as a broad introduction, the difference between weather. Now likely you've got an app and you checked your app this morning on what the weather was going to be. You see, the weather is changing or is constantly changing, and we can even say it's erratic. All right? So weather, if you will, is short term. Climate, on the other hand, is long-term. And what it is, it's the average of weather, technically, over 30 years. So they go back and they look for the last 30 years in a particular area, like say here in Houston, what has the weather been like? Now, climate is like long-term, big picture. Weather is what's going to happen tomorrow, right? This is only accurate, a few days, right? And even then, it isn't always accurate. It's going to rain, and then it doesn't rain. So the prognosticators, the meteorologists, they can work about the weather, but climate's a bigger issue, right? It's things like the average days of sun. This is some data you would find. How many days of sun are there in, say, a year in a particular place? I used to live in Colorado, and one of the things they always say, we have over 300 days of sunshine every year. Well, that's not always true, right? Some years they have 250. Some days the 320. It's going to change, but that's like the average over the last 30 years. Also, like timing. When does it rain? In some locations, they have things called monsoons. In a monsoon season, when the rain comes into a particular area and it rains, and it's kind of a rainy season. Now, is it always going to be, from April 1st to June 3rd or whatever the season is? No. It's kind of ish in the spring maybe or something like that. So climate is big picture, whereas weather is short term. And this is really important. This is hugely important for like the economies of the world. Why? Because in the economies, if you grow stuff for a living, you're a farmer or whatever, the weather matters, doesn't it? I mean, I'm sure your parents have looked at the weather before they've gone on a trip. It's like, I don't think I want to drive through that snowstorm. That's not going to be a good idea. Or, we're not going to go there because there's a hurricane. I know many of you, of course, lived through Katrina. Now, when we talk about the elements of weather, so it's actually the elements of weather and climate. There are some things. It's true whether it's weather or climate. Here are the big issues that we often talk about. Air temperature. So that's an element of weather. Humidity. Now, we knew this big time here in Houston. We live in a very humid climate. But there are places that are a dry climate, right? All right. The type or the amount of cloudiness, all right? The type or the amount of precipitation. Precipitation is the water that comes from the sky. So snow, does it snow more here? Does it rain more here? Does it sleet more here? Does it, the different kinds of thing, right? One we'll look at later, this is a very important one to making everything worse, something called air pressure. I'll talk about what that is a little bit later. And then the speed or direction of wind. There's some places on the earth that are crazy windy. I moved here from Chicago, which is called the Windy City, which isn't that windy, by the way. It's a whole other story. It's because actually they call it the Windy City because the politicians are long-winded, not because it's actually windy in Chicago. I bet you didn't know that. So it's the speed or direction of wind. Some places crazy windy, some places not so windy, and it may vary from month to month or because of the climate. Maybe it's windier in the fall than in the spring or whatever it is. So two big ideas. Understand the difference between weather and climate, and understand when we talk about weather and climate, here are, if you will, I said, 6 things, the 6 elements that make a difference. Houston, we don't have a problem.